Well, hello fellow coconuts, retro heads, and vintage tech enthusiasts. Welcome back to La Coco Strangiato. I'm Coconut Bob, and today we are taking our third dive into color fog. We're going to be taking a look at the loader, the thing that just kicks off the whole modular process. So let's get it going. Okay guys, welcome back. Like I said, we're going to be taking a look at the color fog loader. So again, before I even start up, what you're looking at right now, I've got my power LED on my Artemis keyboard in standby mode. And I'm just going to break out of SDC Explorer. If I type dir, those are the same files that we were just looking at. And if I type dir1, you'll see that I have color fog basically mounted in drive 1 on my SDC. That's kind of by default. I generally only change it when I'm working on a program, and that will be my working disk. I'm just going to type run quote fog:1. So here's the loader, what you see when it starts up. Basically 2 lines of asterisks above and below the words color fog, and a pop-up kind of 3D looking dialog box with a drop shadow and some black text, and then a white banner line. That this is just kind of the welcome screen, and what it's doing mainly is to let you move a joystick to tell the program whether you want to use your left or your right joystick by default. And my reasoning behind this was always that for some reason 9 times out of 10, whatever I wanted to do on my color computer, the joystick was plugged into the wrong port. I had to reach back, unplug it, plug it in. So I just wanted my program to be able to use either joystick input. So what's going to happen, I'm going to move the mouse, and then it's going to show me whether it's left or right. And then I have a couple of seconds where I'm going to press the right mouse button, and I think that'll give me a chance to stop the program execution before it launches into the main module. So let's give this a shot. Wiggled, right click, okay. So we just have this text, and I can hit an F to launch the fog module, S to set up, R to restart this loader, and it's not documented, but I can hit Q to quit. I'm going to just give this a list through line 10, I think will fit on screen. So there we go. Got 3 lines of remarks just showing basic, who wrote this crap. Okay, so line 4, clear some variable space. We have on air, go to 800, on break, go to 995, and GL, which means global location, equals NH6FFF0. So that is just, I have 2 bytes of global data that I store. It is the drive that fog is running off of, and that actually has 1 byte by itself, because under HDBDOS it could actually be anywhere from 0 to 255. And then in the other byte I store the fog module as variable F, and the joystick selection as J. And I believe the joystick is stored in bit 6. So we'll get to a point where you see where that where we combine variables F and J and store those into the global location. But for now, we're just we're still on line 4. We have declared that global location, and if peak 342 equals 191, then lpoke global location, comma 0. So if peak 342 equals 191, this is how BASIC can detect if the control key is held down. So when you run the loader, it will remember your joystick setting and save that in the global location as well as what drive it's running from. So if you wanted to change that, you could run the loader and hold down the control key, and it will forget your joystick selection and let you choose again. Alright, so before I go any further, we're still in line 4. We're going to go take a look at the error and brake handling routine. So let's list 800 on. Pause there. So line 800E is the error number, L is the error line, H screen 0, that will take us back to the non-graphical 40 or 80 column screen. So line 808, if error number is 26, then if line number is 25, then we go to line 900. So this is a very specific error trap, and if we look at line 900, it's right here. We close number 1, which is a file that we attempted to open, and basically it's a detecting that there is no configuration data. The fog generator program doesn't create the configuration data file, and that's how it forces you to run the setup program first, and that gives you an idea to configure the program the way you want it. So line 900 will detect no configuration data, or it will report no configuration data, and print on the screen using setup defaults. So line 910 is where we start setting up palette values. Line 920 says f equals 2, and let's poke our global location with that. So it masks out whatever our joystick selection was and resets our global location to run setup, and then it says go to 30. So that is basically returning from our error trap. So we left line 808 at then 900. So there's one more section here, else if L equals 30. So if we have a missing file in line 30, then we go to line 32, so we just skip a bit. Otherwise, then we can just report file not found and go to the error trapping at the end, shut the program down. So if it's not error 26, then we still have one more error case that's trapped here. If line number is 8 and DH is 0, then 10 else DH. This is some weird case for, if I remember correctly, it was for an HD BDOS setup where there was no actual hard drive. So I think I had to put that in my program because when I first started writing this, I had no actual hard drive. And then 850 is basically, it wasn't any of those errors or line numbers, so it just prints error number in line number, and then go to 995, which will, 995 is our exit routine. It'll print a blank line. It'll slow the computer back to normal clock speed. It'll notify me that there are still some basic patches in memory. It'll tell me which drive I'm on. Poke NHADEB, 189, that reactivates the brake key. That can be a problem if you forget about it. And then the poke, I'm not sure what those other 3 pokes do, but surely they're just returning something back to normal. We set the RGB palette, and then we set blue background and white text that we're looking at right now, and then exit the program. And that is basically it. So we have looked at all this time. List. We made it to line 4. And then we looked at the air trapping and the brake handling. So moving on to line 5, we have poke 65497, 0. That's the high speed, double speed clock on a Coco 3. Poke and HADEB, 189. So that's supposed to be a comma 57 to disable the brake key. I apparently have the brake key disabled. Go sub 19, hbuff 0, go sub 16, hbuff 0. So 19 and 16 are the subroutines that swap out the memory page for the HBuffer memory. In Extended Basic, one page is reserved for HBuffer graphics, just for the storage, and there is one unused page of memory that you can actually swap in there and kind of double your effective storage. So what I do, and I don't really do it in this loader, but this code kind of made its way in here for the pop-up dialog box. So what I do is I switch to the alternate page where I have already saved the dialog box without text. I put that, and then I switch back to the normal page. And when I'm done with the dialog box, when I put the normal page, that is basically my backed up copy of what was there before the dialog box popped up. So we'll get more into that later. It sounds a little convoluted, but it's basically just a little simple page flipping. It's not something that you would normally find in a basic manual how to do that. Just kind of a little trick that I stumbled across, probably while skimming through the Unraveled books. If you don't know about the Unraveled series, you need to know. Okay, still on line 5, we went to our go sub 19 and 16. We're basically clearing the buffers out right there. Width 40, we just go into a 40 column screen, and now we start dimensioning our variables. Dim p sub 2 comma 15. So 0 counts. That means this is a 3 by 16 array, and basically the p array is my palette values for 3 different monitor types. So I have RGB, composite, and I decided to make one for monochrome. Again, that's one of those things. It's in there. It's not really super fleshed out, but there is a monochrome setting. R sub 7 comma 10. So that's an 8 by 11 variable. Something to do with my palettes, my color themes. And then of course D string sub 16. I've got 17 drawstrings that are saved into fog.dat. That is created by the fog generator program. There's also a program called fog.dat.bas that will let you recreate fog.dat if you needed to edit the graphics. So if lpeak.gl equals 255, then lpoke.gl, 0. So sometimes when you power up the color computer, it has FF in that memory location, and if FF is in GL, then it will just reset it to 0. Line 6 is telling us F equals 1. It's setting the mode to fog, and it's reading the J value from my global location, bit 6. So J equals lpeak, GL, and 192. So that is reading bits 6 and 7 and dividing by 64 to basically it'll convert it to 0 through 3. DH equals peak, and H150, again that's the HDB DOS maximum hard drive number. That doesn't really have any effect on an SDC. It's just some code that's left in here from the old version. Again, this is kind of my beta version that I'm sort of slowly developing to work with the SDC. So DRV equals peak 235. Peak 235 basically tells me which drive I ran fog from. So again, there's a lot of data files in the ColorFog modular system, and Fog needs to know where those are to work properly. So that is one of the pieces of information it reads. So at the basic prompt, when I typed run fog:1, that does not change the drive. If I did not do this detection, the first thing that would happen is it tries to load one of the modules and it crashes out with a non-existent file error. So DRV equals peak 235 tells us which drive we ran the program from, and then we actually switch drive DRV. We actually switch to that drive, so now we're on drive 1 where we ran it from. LPOK GL-1, so GL-1 is the memory location where I store the drive that Fog is running from, and LPOK GL J by 64 plus F. So J by 64 is my current joystick selection, and F is the module. Okay, line 8, drive 2 off, drive 3 off. So that's telling ColorFog to use physical floppies rather than drive wire floppies. Poke 55455, 1 is telling it to use physical drive 0, and then the next one is physical drive 1. In basic, that'll be drive 2 and drive 3 respectively. Okay, so line 10, basically we are finished with all of the initialization housekeeping. We jump to line 20. So this is basically my subroutine section here that we're skipping over. Line 15, first thing it does is go sub 19, which pulls in again the alternate hbuff space. It will put the dialog box. It will calculate the location to print the 3 lines of text, center justified. It will print them, and then it will restore the normal hbuffer page and return from the loop. So that's how you start a dialog box. So we're up to line 20 now, the main program just starting. We've got a few pokes here that prevent screen clears. This kind of helps keep things cleaner later. 25, this was our first error detection trap. Open I, number 1. Number 1 is just a buffer. You could use a different number if you wanted to. I means it's for input only, and it's going to be a sequential file. It's not random access. Fog.cfg, that's our configuration file, and we are just inputting variables like tstring, which is going to be the name of the font we default to, our monitor type, our palette selection. For L is 0 to 15, it'll input our palette values based on the monitor type, and then we close that buffer, and MM is something to do with the menu. Line 30 for L equals 0 to 15, so now we're just actually setting our palettes, our actual palette registers, to the values that we loaded in the file. H screen 2 and clear the screen. So again, we disabled screen clear, so when we switch to the high res screen, we do want to clear it the first time. Palette 1,9 H color, 1,14 H print. So this is where we saw the initializing screen first pop up. Load M tstring, again that's our font. Yeah, so 32, we have those pokes again. I don't remember exactly what those do. Might be something related to the H print, because I do actually, I modify the H print command to fill in the background behind the text, rather than the default behavior. When you H print, it just prints the text and it leaves the background as it is, which sometimes that's what you want, but most of the time it's kind of annoying and makes it hard to read your text. I really don't. Okay, 32. Okay, so lines 32 and 35, I think I'm actually interrupting some sort of a vector here. And I'm manually poking in some code. Oh, okay, M and L is my MSB and LSB for the memory location I'm using. Duh. It's not my first day. I'm actually kind of manually poking in a very short little machine language subroutine that what this does, yeah, it's still a little bit fuzzy to me, but that is basically my palette cycling subroutine. So even though we're in basic, normally when you want to cycle the palette, you have to manually set, palette 0 to this, palette 1 to this, palette 2 to that, and it's choppy. They don't all change smoothly at once. And on my menu on this, that looked kind of crappy, and I wanted it to look smooth, like a Hollywood marquee. Let's keep going. Line 37 is one of my drawstrings. D string of 1, I think that is the word fog, or it might be color. D string of 2 would be the other one, whichever. Okay, line 40, H color, 114, H print. So we print a period there on the screen just to indicate some progress. All we've done really is declared a bunch of variables, but all that stuff takes time, running in the background in BASIC. So kind of my concept of the loader is to show a little bit of activity while you're waiting for things to happen. So we print a period there, we change some more colors, go sub 19, that's going to switch in the secondary buffer space and clear it. Okay, I'm setting up the buffer values for that space. I reset it, and then hbuff1, 2672 bytes, hbuffer2, 3899. In case you're wondering how I came to those values, there are ways to calculate your hbuffer minimum numbers, and they do work. What's in the super extended basic manual is wrong. My basic method is to kind of just trial and error it. I use a number that works, and then I make it smaller until it doesn't work, and then I increase it slowly until it works again. Line 42, and you'll see that I'm printing spaces here. Again, normally in super extended basic that wouldn't do anything unless it was modified to fill in the background with the background color, and this is basically a lot faster than using, for example, the hline command to clear a section of the screen. If you use hprint to fill in those blank lines, it's a real actual speed hack. So 1 to 9, okay, this is actually drawing the vertical pop-up menu background. So the H draw here is kind of just drawing the border and the drop shadow, and then we do the H get, H color, H print, another dot on the initializing screen. So all this is happening on the high-res screen without actually being on the high-res screen. You don't see the drawing happening, you're just looking at the word initializing. Line 45. So this line is drawing the horizontal dialog box. Again, we're in the alternate buffer space, so we drew the vertical drop-down menu and we saved that into buffer 1, and now we're drawing the horizontal dialog menu and we're saving that into buffer 2, and all the colors are determined by the variables that we set earlier. Hget goes up 16, so as soon as we get that second buffer, we go sub 16, which resets our normal buffer memory block, and we print our third period after initializing. Line 48 is saying if my joystick is greater than 0, then we're going to go ahead and launch a module, we have selected the joystick value already. Okay, so if we have selected a joystick value already, then it basically bypasses the whole dialog box, pop-up screen and all that. If a joystick has been selected, we'll clear the screen. On F, go to 130, 135. So if F is 1, then it launches the fog module. If F is 2, it will launch the setup module. If F is 0, means we have not selected a default module, and that's when it will go into the joystick selection dialog box. F equals 1. If F was 0, now F is 1. We're going to poke that into our global location, and now we're going to start drawing our welcome screen. So yeah, there is a whole lot of concatenation going on in lines 50 and 52, and I am not entirely sure what it is. It might come to me later. We'll see. We're looking at 55 now. T equals 14. I'm thinking that might be a line number, like a vertical coordinate. T string equals 2 asterisks, H draw, BM13628, S16. So the S16 is basically 4 times normal scale. The default draw scale is 4. Draw XD string sub 2. So XD string sub 2 is the word fog. So I've scaled it up to 4 times its normal size. I draw the word fog, and then I move down 2 pixels and draw it again. Because of the way the drawstring is built, it's almost like scan lines. So when you do 4 times as big, you have to draw another one in between to fill in the scan lines properly. Next we go to scale 8, and that's only double scale. And then we're drawing XD string sub 1, which is the word color. Then I go into a loop for x equals 8 to 28, step 4. Blah blah, and selecting colors, H print T string. So again, T string is our 2 asterisks. So this is where we print the asterisks above and below the words color fog. H print x comma 1 T string, H print x 1 comma 7 comma T string, C equals C plus 1. That's C is going to be your color. And again, this is colors 2 through 7, and that's all that it's cycling there. So, line 58, H color 014 print. So just some more text here. This is the black text below the dialog, and then line 60. Okay, just more text. Blah blah blah. We set up some of the variables that will show up later when we have selected our joystick as far as left or right. This is where it gets the words left or right from. So again, we have high res, even though that's not actually an available option at this point, but this is something that we'll fix going forward. So in the original version of Color Fog that was written just for Disk Basic without even HDBDOS, I was using Custom Color Basic because it had its own ways to patch. It patched the hprint command to fill in the background, and it also gave this palette command the ability to cycle. So I could put in the command palette number 2, 5, 8, and somehow that would tell it to cycle palettes 2 through 7, and I think 8 might have been a time delay, and it would just cycle like that in the background. When I moved to HDBDOS, I could no longer use Custom Color Basic. It's not compatible, so that's when I had to write my own little palette cycling routine. So okay, line 66, T equals menu color equals MM, T1 string equals joystick detection, Okay, so we're still just setting up the text for the dialog box at this point. Reading in joystick values. 71 A string equals user 0 sub C string sub C. So apparently setting up all of those C string values has something to do with my machine language subroutine. I'm still a little bit confused about how my program worked with regards to that. Hprint at 0, 23, T string. So 72 is basically the banner at the bottom of the screen. All that's in data statements, and before we even read a data statement, T string was set to welcome to color fog, and that's basically where it prints it for the first time. And it's checking if K string is an up arrow, and that tells it when it's got to the end of a text line. If K string is equal to an up arrow, then we read K string, which will be the next data line. If K string equals 3 asterisks, then go sub 250. So 3 asterisks indicates the end of my data statements. Line 250 will restore it back to the beginning of the data and just keep cycling until a joystick has been selected. So if x2, if x3, so this is where we're actually checking the variables to see if one of the joysticks has moved or not. And then x3 I think is something for the high res that again it's deprecated. That's not going to be fixed. The whole joystick thing's going to be changed out pretty soon, and I probably won't even change it in the loader. Okay, so 78, if none of the joysticks have moved, then it'll check for a space, and if there's a space it'll set it to the right joystick. Otherwise, we have not made a selection, it just goes back to line 70. And then once we have made a selection, I believe it jumps to line 80. So in line 80 we have T string equals user 0 sub C string sub 0. So that is basically resetting the palette to the correct order. So if we're somewhere in the middle of the palette cycling, it resets it to normal values. lpoke GL, so we're saving the selections we made as far as our module and controller. Then we play a P1 string, which is like a little kind of a beep. T1 string equals F string sub J, so that's going to be the word left or right. Input selected, go sub 15. Sub 15, again, first thing it does is pull in the alternate memory location, then it go subs 19 and it draws the dialog box, or it puts the dialog box, and then 19 returns here. So yeah, when we go to go sub 15, it'll put the empty dialog box from line 19, and then it'll print the text T1 string, T2 string, and potentially T3 string. Hprint 18, 2. Okay, so that's just our selection. Go sub 16, that resets the default memory for the H buffers. So in line 105 we have a little chance to escape. That was where you can click the right joystick button or the second button, and it'll give you a chance to select a different module. Anyway, 110, if D is greater than 150, then on F. So D is my delay. D is just a little delay loop. If I don't press a button, then by the time it counts to 150, it will launch the next module. If I do press the right button, then we go to line 120, and that lets us choose. Line 130, it sets up the variables to load the fog module, and then we go to line 200 that actually does the loading. 135 sets the variables for the setup module. Line 140 was just a restart, so all it does is clear the variables and rerun this same program, the loader. Line 200, again, that's just going to load whichever selection we made. Line 240 is an end, which we probably should not ever get to, since we load T-string and run it. That line 240 should be erased at that point. So again, line 250, this is where we're at our restore the data. It also pauses for however long it takes to count to 800, and then it returns. And then here are all my data statements that you see scrolling by while you're waiting to select your joystick. And then here we are back at the error handling and exit routines. Okay, so that's pretty much the whole kit and caboodle of the loader. It's a lot for just a basic loader program. It's something like 6 or 7 kilobytes, which is pretty large for just a loader. I mean, it does do some stuff, but let's just take another quick look at it and you can watch the things unfold that we just walked through. Now we'll hold down Control so that it doesn't jump. See the dots showing up as it drew things in the background. Our menu is popped up. You see our cycling asterisks and the words color fog. The text in the dialog box is just because it's one of those 5 colors that's cycling, it cycles too. If I wanted to, I could have made it a color outside of that range and it would not cycle. And again, the text in the bottom banner is just those data statements cycling away. So that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.